Welcome to Chat and Chai with moi, your host, Karishma Bazday. This is a space where we aim to empower and inspire women through other women's stories. So if that sounds like your vibe, then girl, you found your tribe. So grab your cup of chai, get comfy, and come along with us as we get inspired. My guest today needs no introduction, especially within the social media space. I have admired her and looked up to her for so long, and I'm so excited to chat to her and get to know her just a little bit more today. I'm, of course, talking about the wonderful, amazing Aisha Baker. Aisha, thank you so much for coming and having a chat and chai with me.
I'm excited. I'm excited to drink my tea.
Drink it. Let's try.
Okay.
Let's try. Actually,
Should we cheers?
Let's cheers.
Let's cheers to our cute teacups.
Yay!
Ooh. So you're saying it's hibiscus?
It's rose and oat straw and hibiscus. It's like
The oat straw is interesting. What does it do?
So oat straw is very calming. It's very calming. It's very nourishing. Yeah,
Almost like, oh, it's so yummy.
it is good. And
Soul podcast, us drinking tea.
yeah, exactly. Well, it's just chai. We just dropped the chat part. It's just chai. Chai. Okay, Aisha. So I want to get right into it. Right. Tell me, who are you? What is your essence,
Oh my
and
gosh.
how have you evolved over the years? I think that's such a fascinating question to ask people.
It's so funny that you asked that because I'm in a, I don't know what you call this space. I'm in like an observation space. Like if I can describe it, I'm in a stage of my life where I'm almost looking at my life from the outside and observing myself. And if I like where I am, and I think that comes with age, time, but also having 2 children.
Yeah.
So I think I lost a bit of my essence in my kids. And so I feel really now like an empty vessel actually, like I'm just wanting to fill it up. I've been calling it my flop era, but it's a very negative way to describe it. I don't think I'm in a flop space, I'm in like a rebuilding space where I'm just trying to keep things that work for me about my personality and the way I deal with people and deciding what I like and what I don't like. So I'm in a space of just like slowing down and just taking stock of everything in my life. That's where I am now. Who I am is going to come to me, I think.
And isn't it true that we are in constant evolution?
Yeah.
Right? And that is the beauty of life. And I think also one of the biggest gifts of motherhood is that, I'm in the same space.
Yeah.
I think I'm like starting to be able to fill, that vessel now that Isla's like, 2 years and 9 months.
I feel like it takes 2 years, honestly.
Completely.
I always say it to moms, but then as a new mother, it's difficult to hear. When you say 2 years, they go, oh my gosh, 24 months.
Especially when
so many days.
When you're in the trenches.
Yes,
and
you're like, I don't want to
"Don't-"
hear 2 years. It's a long
Exactly.
time. But, it takes 2 years. It's like being a parent and being a carrying mother is a very profound experience. Because it's like you're really just shedding yourself in the process.
Completely.
And you're like an onion, you peel away these layers, but it's just a faster process when you become a mother, and you just find yourself in the space where you're like, oh my gosh, I've now raised the baby, done all the things. The baby's fine. They're now at school or they're playgroup or they're taken care of. They're forming. They're growing. And then you have to look back at yourself and go, oh, wait.
Who am I?
I'm an onion without the skin. Like, what do I do to, what's the next covering? What are the layers?
I think a lot of people don't really, give enough attention to the fact that when you become a mom, you really are kind of killing the maiden and birthing the mother.
Yeah.
And that's
I always say,
very
from
different.
princess to pauper, because when you're childless, you can exude princess energy.
Completely.
And then you have to unravel and then reveal the queen within. But I think I'm not there yet. I'm not ready to unleash the queen. It's something that you have to build on. And I don't think in a modern society we talk about it enough. I think in the past there were sisterhood circles, and if I listen to my grandmother, she doesn't understand why we all struggling so much, because in her day, her only role was to be a mother and a wife.
Exactly.
And her day was centered around that. And she had her friends that was also their only role.
Exactly.
So they met up when everybody was at school and the husbands went to work. They met up and they had their like sisterhood circle where they could talk and engage, and they weren't shamed for it. Whereas now, our society's evolved and it's so good in so many ways, but we are missing that that ancient element of just sitting around and saying like, this is what life looks like for us. It's different to other people that we know. It's like, it's a very unique experience, and maybe we need to hold each other through it. And we can't do that because we're ashamed. We're like, you need to be a working woman. You need to
do it all.
Do it
have
all.
It all.
Yeah, and you can have it all. Honestly, that can have it all narrative is like what sends us into the depressive state, because you're like, why am I not doing more? It's because we're not talking like we used to,
Exactly. And I'm so over the we can have it all. Like, yes we can, sure we can, but do I want to put myself in that space where I'm killing myself to have it all? Like, I would rather have a little bit less, focus on a little bit less, and have kind of that quality, that grounding behind it. Like, honestly, motherhood has made me like rethink so much of what I want for my life. And it's so hard. I think that want it all, need it all, can have it all, it has been over the short space of time like embedded deep in us, because I feel that anxiety rise up at like the craziest times of like, am I not doing enough? Oh my God, so and so is doing so. And I think it does come back to we have access to each other's lives. And each other's highlight reels.
We have access to each other's lives in a very inauthentic way.
Exactly.
With social media and the way we're living now. I think in the past, I would imagine, you'd also know someone's highlight reel. I'm not going to tell you everything, but you'd have your core sisters that you're talking to, and then are going to say like,
actually,
the bath water was too hot for the kid because I was so concentrated on whether or not, I'm happy, or like those conversations they were deep, and maybe they were just with you and 4 other people, your sisters or friends or cousins or whatever. I think there's a desire for our generation to bring some of the goodness back from that. Our parents, and they'd worked really hard to be these like power women, and I commend them, and that's so cool that we have that option,
right?
Because you don't have to now be a mom and a wife. You can be whatever you want, but I think our generation wants a balance, and we want to find that sweet spot. And maybe it's our daughters that find it. Maybe they're the ones who find the sweet spot, and we're
just blazing the trail for them.
Exactly.
That's fine as well. How do you then like weave that into your life? Like, how do you weave sisterhood into your life?
I'm such a sister. It is like my biggest calling in life. I was actually telling my own sister that when I was younger, and my mom had planned to have 2 children, and she had fallen pregnant with my sister unexpectedly when I was 5, and my brother was 4 years older than me. I'm bad at math, 9. And so we didn't expect to get a sibling, and I was like, I felt like I was the reason, because that's all I prayed for. Like when we had to do our prayers, I'd be like, I just want a sister. Like, I'm such a girl's girl, I need a sister. And I'd always hang out with my granny. So I just loved being around women, like my aunts, my granny, and my mom. And then when I got this sister, I was like, I'm going to be the best sister ever. I was like, prepared myself mentally for this role. It took me 9 months to get there. I was like, okay, got this. And I love being an older sister. And I take that into my career as well. When I started my blog, it was from a position of being a sister and creating a sisterhood. I love that vibe. I went to an all-girls school in high school. Loved it. I loved the feeling of just having all these women around me and us building something and vibing off of each other. So it's easy for me to weave it into my life because it's natural for me. And I spend a lot of time I think I spend more time talking to women than I spend talking to my husband or my kids. Because I just love the conversations we have. I love how we move. I love how we think. I love how dynamic we are. We're just wired differently, and I'm obsessed with it. Honestly, I could speak to, this is why I go to events and I can never leave, because I'd be like,
say we like the last one.
Yeah, I'm like, there's 3 girls there, and I'm like, oh, finally I can, just like unravel and show myself. And I feel like I can be vulnerable around women. So it's not difficult for me to weave that in. I think on the flip side of that, it's more difficult for me to weave in like time for a relationship or for my kids. I really struggle to connect as a mom. Like I can do the things that need to get done,
Right.
but I struggle to do the playing and engaging as a mom because I don't have that same thing, like my mom loves children, and for her, if you would ask for her for a perfect day, she'd build a puzzle with one of her grandkids, would be like a best day.
Wow. Okay.
And I just struggle to get into that gear. I think I'd have more fun if my kids were like adults, I think.
Like
I
a
think
little
I'm
bit
going to
older.
enjoy them when they're grown up and they're my
Completely.
friends.
Gal and I always joke because we're like, everyone talks about this newborn phase.
Yeah.
We didn't like that phase at all.
I hated it.
It was so challenging for us.
It's very challenging.
And the minute we got that bit of communication from Isla, we're like, this is great, and she's so funny, and now it's like a little human.
A little bestie.
A little bestie, and it's so much easier for me to like step into that space now. But I also struggle with firstly like the patience.
Yeah.
And the attention span. I'm probably worse than her, to sit and like do this very few things like.
And moms don't talk about this.
No,
They don't.
it's like it's draining for me.
It is draining.
And like I love her, and I love the cuddles and like laughing and giggling, but like she wants to draw, and then she puts 3 dots on the paper, and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna like, we can be like artists now, and I can get my, and then I do make 2 strokes, and then she's like, I'm gonna draw here too, and then so she's drawing all over
Yes.
so
Oh my
like
gosh,
I
it
can't
triggers me.
even create my own piece of art,
I'm laughing because it triggers me too when we're coloring in the coloring book. And if my son's got one page and I've got one page,
No.
and he starts to draw on my page, I get like, I'm like, okay.
Exactly, you just gotta
this
like.
is about him, like it's not about
I
me.
know.
Like I can color later when he's
I
sleeping.
know, right? But like, I don't know, it just like drives me nuts, and
Yeah.
that's why like I think we do a lot of stuff with Isla and nature, because then
Yes.
it's just kind of free play and like more imagination stuff. But like asking me to like, I don't know, I think maybe it will get better as she's older, when we can
It
maybe
does get better.
sit and focus and build a whole puzzle, not like let's build a puzzle and it's like
Definitely
2
gets
pieces
better. I
and
see
then-
it with my nieces and nephews. My nephew's 12, and I think he's so cool and interesting. I love talking to him. My niece is 8 or 9, and the other one is 6. The 9 and the 12-year-old vibes. Love
Okay.
it. I'm like,
Okay.
we talk about things, their interests. I'm like trying to get to know them. They have their own thoughts, and it's like I'm getting to know them as people, and I can see it does get better for those of us who struggle to bring out our inner child. And it's
Right.
okay to struggle with it, honestly.
okay.
I say that to my sister now. She's got a newborn baby. She's like, oh my gosh, this is not fun. And I'm like, it's not fun having a newborn. The only fun part is that you get to kiss and cuddle them.
We are taking a quick break because I want to talk a bit about the sponsor of today's episode, Birkenstocks. Birkenstocks has been a brand that has truly impacted and changed my life. I had such bad pain in my feet after giving birth to Isla, and I tried everything and nothing was working. And eventually I figured out that I needed to get some shoes that were able to give me a bit more support with my feet. And someone suggested Birkenstocks, but in my mind, Birkenstocks didn't really fit in with my lifestyle and my aesthetic. I just always thought of Birkenstocks as these big chunky shoes that wouldn't suit me at all. But I went onto their website and I was so surprised to find that they have so many options, so many styles, so many colors to really suit everyone. And honestly, from the moment I tried on my first pair of Birkenstocks, my life changed completely. Coming from a girl who is used to living in like 9-inch heels all the time, and honestly didn't think I could live without that, to a girl who now constantly has a pair of Birkenstocks with her wherever she goes, because honestly, Birkenstocks just feels like coming home to a warm hug for your feet. Even if I've been in other flat shoes the entire day, I love nothing more than coming home and putting on my pair of Birks. And because I want all of you to experience the joy and comfort of Birkenstocks, I hooked you guys up with a discount code. So you can use CHAI15 CHAI15 to get 15% off your Birkenstocks. So now you have no excuse. Go out and grab yourself a beautiful pair of Birkenstocks.
Yes, for me, as like I know a lot of moms enjoy it. The dependency for me is too much. The pressure of I'm your life source. I'm like everything
not
to you.
Not even that. It's like what do you do with a newborn baby? Like I feed you and I cuddle you, and now you like just this blob
Staring at me.
that's there. You know, you like I really struggle with that. Like how do I know you don't have to entertain them, but yes, what do you do with them for those hours that they're awake, or whatever. Like
I used to look at my son and I would start talking to him like a normal friend that doesn't talk, and I'd be like, oh, I wonder what you're gonna say if you talk back. Like, do you really think this? I know. I literally talk to him conversation, because I didn't know what to do. I wasn't the goo gaga type of person, and I've got like a bit of sensory issues. I'm very sensitive to like color and sound.
Okay.
So I don't like toys and stuff with sound and bright colors.
Yes.
It messes with me. I've had to work on it. So I didn't have a lot of toys in my house until my son was maybe 3 when he started asking for them.
Yeah.
I kept like very minimal stuff because I didn't like the look of toys. It like messed with my brain. So I've had to unlearn a lot of that stuff. So in the beginning when I had him, I was just like, okay, what do we do together? Because I'm not going to play, like you can play with the Tupperware, because I'm not going to do the toy thing.
Yes.
It's not for me. Like I'd put him on the counter and be like, okay, let's cook together and like do things together.
Actually don't need a lot, you know?
Yeah.
We get caught into this thing of like, oh, you must have these books and you must have the, little kids.
My son's read, the books that he's read is like, they're actually for grown-ups. They're like those picture books that are poems and stuff. That's what I used to read to him, because I'm like, I can't read the boring stuff. I actually always would choose the books. And now he's like my favorite person, because we get along so well. I think I almost preconditioned him to be my favorite person.
You groomed him.
Because he likes everything I like, and it's so easy to go out together, and like we enjoy similar stuff, and I really get him. Whereas my daughter, she is a challenge for me, because she's like opposite to everything. Like she's loud and she's colorful and she's vibrant, so there's no way I could have a house with like minimal stuff. She's gonna be like bringing in stones banging them against the wall.
think as women, our daughters always come in to challenge us.
Yeah,
I mean, Isla is so like me in so many ways, but it's scary because we're both very determined.
Yeah.
We both know exactly what we want. We know exactly how to get. I mean, Gail laughs all the time. It's like, oh my God, what am I going to do with these two women in my house? Because we push each other's buttons all the time, because we don't always want the same thing.
But was it always like that for you, like from the beginning? Like from she was 1 or?
Yeah.
She's 2, right?
She's 2.5 to 9 months.
So when she started being a person, it was probably like 1 or 10 months.
Even from the time she was a baby, like when they started like reaching for things, like wanted the keys and stuff, I'd be like, what do I, and all my friends would be like, oh, just distract her with something else. I'm like, you have not met my kid.
Like you don't know this child.
From 6, like you could not. If she wanted those keys, she wanted those keys, and don't try and fool her and give her something else.
No,
it just never worked with her. So it's been a challenge.
Yeah.
In that way. But it's going to be wonderful when she's a woman.
Yeah. And she's going to be like a fun. I think what I say about Salma, my daughter, I always say, like, I know that one day we're going to get along so well.
Right.
But she's definitely made me rethink my entire life. Like, I literally look at my life, I'm like, so she's super brave. She does gymnastics, and there's like a massive thing, and she'll like swing on it and try to jump down. She loves falling. So I'm like, she swims really, she's 1.5.
Wow.
And I'm quite cautious. Like, I'm afraid of animals because we didn't grow up with animals.
Right.
So it's a constant challenge for me to engage with animals, because I wasn't taught how to love animals.
Right.
My daughter's obsessed with animals, loves them, will go up to any dog without thinking, just grab them and like start laughing. And so me, the mom that's afraid of the dog, I have to be like, okay. And I always tell the owner, I'm like, I'm actually afraid of dogs. And they look at me and they're like,
but your child just ran up to
your daughter's like all up in my dog right now, and you're afraid. So I'm like, do you mind just peeling your, if you can just separate them? And they're like, no, take your child. So it's like she pushes me to learn the things about myself I haven't bothered to learn, like to go into the other side of me. And I've realized that I'm actually also brave. I only realized it through her, because I'm like, I've done like skydiving and weird stuff that I was afraid of. But I never did it consciously. I just like went along with what, like if you're gonna go bungee jumping, I'm like, oh, I'm just going with Krishma and not think about it. And then in the moment, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm deathly afraid. What
did I say yes to?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's me. So I'm like, I was like, oh, I'm actually brave. My friend actually said it to me. She's like, you always moan about Salma, but you're so similar. And I'm like, I don't see how we're similar, but she's been a mirror to me where I'm like, oh, I'm actually a brave person. Maybe I can try new things. Like maybe I can do the things that are hard, you know, because she just goes and like jumps in the pool. I'm like, oh my gosh,
what are you doing?
She literally jumped in and started kicking. Like,
I mean, it's been like that with me and Isla, but I think I'm very brave.
Yeah.
But it's almost been a lesson in caution for me.
Yeah.
Because same like you, I watch my child just fearlessly throw herself into things, and I think, oh my Lord, this is what I put my parents through.
Oh my gosh.
Or like now I'm thinking, don't fall, and I'm like, you know, I never, like I would go jump over that, or I would have, you know, even when I was younger. So it's been almost a lesson in caution.
It's a big challenge to let your kid be themselves.
Oh my gosh.
I actually like forgive my mom for a lot of holding us back, because it's very hard.
And I want to, but like, and I'm very good at it, I think. But there's moments as well where it's like, she's freaking climbing jagged rocks, like on the edge of the ocean.
And then your heart's like,
and she's just, and I'm like, literally standing there on the edge going, okay, she's gonna be fine.
And also, how much is too much? Like, how much do you allow them
like,
to push
are you just
the
being
boundary?
reckless?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? With her safety. You know what I mean? Obviously, Gal and I are like always like close enough, but I'm like, what if your hand
I believe now in injury a little bit, because Salma's gotten quite injured in her life, in a short life. She hasn't broken anything, thankfully, but she's gotten injured, and I've realized like, oh, okay, it's okay if she learns that way, and I don't want to stop her. Like, if she wants to be a gymnast, I don't want to like watch her do this big thing and like be so afraid, you know.
Exactly.
I'm trying to let go.
And how, I'm curious to know, like, how is Wayne, firstly, with like the inner child stuff?
Yeah.
Do you think he's better or different at it?
We are so different. So I'm very woo-woo, voodoo vibes. Like I will go to any healer and dealer and like to work on myself. Like I love getting to know myself. I will do anything that's safe to tap into more about myself. And that's why I love birthing. I was telling you off camera that I would love to be a doula or a postpartum doula. And I helped doula my sister because I love the feeling of letting go. And when I gave birth, I loved feeling free. Yeah. And I like the journey work of like going through this intense pain, and then you come out and you know something about yourself.
Exactly.
You know?
That self-discovery is very addictive to me.
So I'm very much like that, whereas Wayne is more cautious, calculated, careful. He doesn't tap in as much as I do, and I think it's so necessary. We've realized that while we work together, because I'm just like, I can crack you open, but I don't know what to do with the information.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm like, okay, so we've cracked you, now go into the world and spread. So he'll be more careful about that, and it helps me also to process with him. In terms of his inner child, I think it comes out when it's, because he's an athlete, when sports starts to happen, and like with my son at soccer, I can see that thing coming out of him. And it's very nice to watch your partner in a different element. Completely. To watch them parent and to see their own sort of traumas come through. I find it so fascinating.
And triggers.
Yes.
And like, it's so fascinating.
Yeah, like with sports, I mean, my son wants to be goalie, and this really triggers Wayne, because he's like, why would he not want to be on the field, like kicking? And my son feels safe in this little box. He's like, I can control everything in this box. All I have to do is stop the ball. And he's like, no, you need to go out on the field, you need to try more stuff. And I'm like, that's your dream. Exactly. Leave him to be in the box if that's what he wants to do. Yeah.
I mean, Gail pushes Isla's buttons all the time. And like so many different, and like, also at some point it's been very interesting for me to like actually have to take a step back from that instead of like running to step in. Yes. And kind of fixes it. I'm like,
I've also realized that the control issues that sometimes comes into play. I think in careers like ours, you are free and spontaneous, and you can let loose, but there's a lot of control issues where you want to control the narrative or control the story. It just comes with what we do, and then you have a situation where you're like, maybe, you know, like with me, I tend to step in and I have to literally have like staff meetings with myself and be like, you need to let this guy father and do his thing and let the trauma jump out, and as long as he's not harming our child, it's okay. Like this dynamic is fine.
And even if they're like screaming at each other and they're like, they must fight and they must like, you know, work it out themselves.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes as moms, like, I hear so many moms like complain like, oh, my husband doesn't do this. But I'm like, but do you let him? Because I had to catch myself with that as well. I mean, I gave birth smack down in the middle of like hardcore lockdown.
Okay, whoa.
You know, Isla was born in May 2020.
Yeah.
So it was 2 months into lockdown. So we had no one and nothing, you know, no help in the house. And I just had to let Gail find his way and do his things because I couldn't say, oh, he doesn't help, or he doesn't. I mean, Gail's exceptionally hands-on. But, you know, Isla would be crying when he's changing the diaper, and I couldn't. I would find myself rushing in to see, what's going on? What are you doing? Are you doing something wrong?
And wipe it like this, like,
and then like, I might as well be changing the diaper, you know? So I had to just force myself to be like, he needs to learn, he needs to find his way, they need to find their way together, you know, and I need to just take a step back.
So I'm quite intense with that, because I will just throw you in the deep end. Like, that's my vibe. So when Wayne came, so I gave birth to Salma. He wasn't home for 7 weeks, so I was all on my own with the two of them. It was absolute chaos.
Did he only meet Salma 7 weeks after she was
he met at 7 weeks.
Oh my gosh, was he dying? I mean,
no,
how did
it
he
was
handle
so
that?
hard because he didn't get the bonding stuff, you know. They have a great bond now, but it was a challenge. And I think he came over and he was home for like 3 days, and I left and went out for the day.
Good. Take your child.
And he's like, I don't know what to do. And he's like, I don't know how to wipe her. He's like, I don't have the same parts. I don't know how to clean them. I'm like, it's the same as wiping the bum. It's just a brand. And I'm like, so chilled about it.
Figure it out.
And then he was like, I don't know what to do. Like, you can't just leave me with the two of them. And I'm like, you know what? As long as I come home and my kids are alive, you've done amazing.
Right.
And so he's like, okay, it took the pressure off. And I always say this to friends of mine as well, when they don't want to leave the kids alone with dad because of whatever, or their partner, the non-primary partner. I'm like, you know what? It's a basic rule. Just, I want to come home and my kids must be alive.
Yeah,
you must have fed them, cleaned them. This is all things to keep them alive. And whichever way you do it, if I come home and they've been in pajamas for 24 hours and they're going to bed in the same pajamas, it's really not that deep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, it's
like not the end of the world.
Like, let them do it their way.
Yeah.
And you guys can talk about it later, or maybe just say, like, this is how I do it. But that's interesting. And you'll also learn new things. Like, I've learned, because I'm very bad with cooking and like giving healthy meals and stuff. I'm lazy, and it's just the one thing that I'm not good at prioritizing my own health and the health of my kids. Like, I won't make a smoothie. I will do what's convenient for me. Whereas Wayne will really prioritize health. So he's like, the most important thing in the morning is breakfast. So he's taught me how to turn my kids from fussy eaters into non-fussy eaters, because he'll take the time to try new things and put secret veggies into things. I'm like, oh, I don't want to do a secret veggie thing. I know, it's such a lot of research. Like, oh, how must I hide broccoli? Like, I'm not going to do that. Because he'll do that exercise, and then I'll learn from him. So it's a team effort at the end of the day, the parenting experience. And I think having a relationship and having children can make or break you. It can break the relationship, or you can learn through it. It's the most exhilarating experience.
And one that's like not, like, this topic is not really spoken about a lot. I mean, yes, people say, oh, it will change your relationship and whatever. Yes, but like, you know, we've been through so many ups and downs in so many different ways, and come back together so beautifully, but like also been like, whoa, and like now, Gail's home for the first time, and it's this whole different dynamic. But we're almost feeling like, you know, life's kind of flying by.
Yeah.
Because we're just in this routine. And I know that's like the norm for so many people. So we're now busy trying to figure out, like, how do we find the moments? And I tell him, I said, I know this doesn't feel like fireworks right now, but this is my dream, you know, having you home every day, living this mundane life, you know, where we like have supper together.
The drama of parenting.
Yeah, like this is what I've craved, and you know, this means everything to me. But you know, we are cognitive of the fact that, like, you know,
we need to make time for date nights and
Yeah.
do this and do this. So how do you and Wayne like navigate that?
I think, it's such an oversimplified topic sometimes because there's so many things about, I know we're talking about parenting a lot, but parenting is really the prime of my life. That's all I'm focused on really.
Same.
And I've spoken a lot about working and career stuff, but the hardest, most challenging things in life is family and relationships. I think that's the biggest challenge you can ever have in your life. So for us, having kids was a massive adjustment. There's so many times when, even though we've stayed married, where Wayne and I have broken up.
Right.
Like if we were dating, it would be a breakup, you know, where we've just had to go our separate ways and figure things out. And I think sometimes in our, growing up as a Muslim woman and in our cultures, this is not spoken about. It's considered, keep it in the bedroom, keep it in the home. You don't talk about these things, but you can't help other people unless you share this information. And for us, we found that couples counseling was like one of the best things for us. It's just like the communication. When you're so tired and you're so drained raising this little person or these little people, you forget to talk, and that builds up. So then we realized in our sessions that actually we're meant to be together and we suit each other really well, even though we feel like we don't fit because life is so hectic.
Exactly.
So that taught us how to communicate. And I was telling my sister, like, we hardly ever fight anymore. We just have very intense discussions. There's no screaming matches. There's no like swearing or whatever. It's like we just like having this intense conversation where we're like, this is where I'm at and you're not seeing my perspective, And I think I always encourage people, if they can, do counseling. If it's an option, if you can afford it financially, or if there's a place you can go to, it's a good way to get back to each other and to like save the relationship.
And it was such a game changer. I mean, Gail and I have always had this incredible relationship, and we get each other, and we've always worked on our relationship and understood how important that was for both of us. And then we had a kid, and then all of a sudden it was like,
it's like the third wheel.
Okay. But also it was, he was working away and I was solo parent, and I know you know that, whole thing. But we got stuck in this whirlwind of it just becoming about like this one thing.
Yeah.
And we couldn't see each other's perspectives. We just kept like bumping heads, because I was like, I need you home. He was like, I know, and I want to be home, but I need to work. There's no work at home. Like, what do you want me to do? It was just like, and we never thought we would be that couple who would need counseling.
Yeah.
And
You never think that. You're like, oh, that's for the other people.
For people who are like abusing each other and stuff, right? Like those are the people that need counseling.
That's the narrative that we've been taught, though. Like people go for counseling or at the verge of ending their marriage, or they at the verge of splitting, or they're in an abusive dynamic where one person has more, the power dynamic is weighted to the one side.
Right.
But what I found was, what do we call it? Like, if you're diabetic, then you're pre-diabetic. You can be like pre-breakup,
Exactly.
And you
on the
need
cusp of something,
on the cusp of that journey. And just seeing a lot of divorce and separating around me, I got to understand, like, oh, this is the way you can save it. Like, save it before you go into that zone of starting to consider something else.
Prevention is better than cure, right?
Yes, and in everything. So it's like the health of your relationship really depends on communication. And if you can't communicate and you're struggling, it's the same as like, if I'm struggling with my calf muscles pulling tight when I'm working out, I'm going to go and phone a physio and say, like, I've got an issue here.
Exactly. You're not just
Can
going
you
to leave
help
it and
me?
be like,
Yeah.
well, we'll see where this goes.
Or if your kid, for example, a lot of us as parents, we prioritize our children. If you see a small rash on your child, you immediately emailing the doctor, WhatsApping doctor friends or other mothers, like, what is this? But when it comes to your relationship health, you push it aside, you sweep it under the rug, you leave it in the
But I think
kitchen,
it's because we don't think about it like that, like what is it, like our relationship health.
Yeah.
This thing that we're building, it has to have longevity. People see it as like, you've gotten married, you signed the document, and
it's
then
happily ever after narrative.
And that's it now. It's like it's this thing that's living and breathing and changing and evolving.
I
And
wish that when we watched movies and cartoons as kids, I wish they showed what happens after happily ever after. Like after the wedding day, after the prince and the princess meet and they kiss for the first time. What's the next
Because we
step?
know that narrative now, right? We know how that goes. But like now I'm like, how do other people
I
navigate
think
these
what's
things?
nice is that in film and in media now, we're starting to see more of those storylines playing out, and I think that will help the next generation. And us talking about these kind of things, it normalizes the fact that like every relationship is challenging. It's okay to talk about the challenging moments. They don't have to be these big, crazy, like he cheated on me and I did this. It's just like, whoa, we're in a difficult space where we can't communicate, and that's hard. And what do I do in that space? I think getting help from an impartial person can really shift you. And you know, with Wayne and I, when we went for counseling, I don't think our counselor did much. We just spoke in a different way where we were like, oh, this is how you're feeling.
It just sets a different energy.
Yes.
And it allows you almost like our therapist said, to step out of the tornado.
Yes.
You know, you just kind of like, okay, now we are forced to step out of this and look at it from a different perspective. Whereas sometimes when you're in it together, it's like you just can't.
Yeah, you're too close to the wall. You can't see it. You just like, so I think I always encourage people, don't discount your relationship. There's a reason you got together, and if you want to stay, and if it's a healthy dynamic and there's just a bit of a lull, or you know, you're looking at the person like, is this really what I wanted? I think explore that conversation in a safe environment instead of running.
Exactly.
Because like we've been taught to run so much. We run to work, we run to exercise, we run to our children, and we're just like, oh, I'm busy being a mom of 4 or 5 kids and I can't focus on my marriage now, and he must sort himself out or she must sort herself out, and I'm driving everywhere. Yeah, but that's a form of running away from the truth, you know. And sometimes just sitting in that discomfort can really heal you, even if you decide after that to separate. Because when we went in there, we were like, we're going in with an open mind, whatever comes out of here. You know,
but at least you know you've explored it.
Yes, and you don't have to do it in a therapy setting if that makes you uncomfortable. There are lots of people you can go to. There's healers and helpers that have a calling to help other people, or it's listening to, you know, a Jay Shetty podcast or reading his book or the audiobook or whatever. There's lots of relationship help out there. You don't have to have a big blowout and throw the vase across the room.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't have to get to that point. And I think parenting or having kids together is one of the craziest experiences, because it really pushes you into a space where you have to relook at your relationship, and maybe all the things you covered up with dates and with trips together or like weekends away. Now you can't cover it up with anything because you're like in the midst of like literal shit.
Yeah, exactly.
So
the
like,
real stuff.
Yeah, so you just look at this person like, is this my person? And if ever we split, you know, I would want to be in a space where we remain friends, because we have a family and we'll always be a family. So we even discuss our splitting and like what it would look like and what we would do, and we like play scenarios like what if you moved on before I did, and like so we play those out because you want to see
gives us perspective.
Yes, and where are we at, and do we like each other at the end of the day? And it always comes back to yes. Like we always come back to yes, we do like each other, and
we like each other as human beings.
Yes.
Like the core of each other, we love who we are.
And that's it for part 1. I hope you enjoyed listening to our conversation and that you had some insightful takeaways. Don't forget to tune in for part 2, where we'll be talking body image, therapy, sisterhood, and much, much more with the lovely Aisha Baker. Please join our community on Instagram and share your thoughts and insights with us. Your opinion is so valued. If you feel called to do so, please leave us a review and share this podcast far and wide so that our community can grow. Much love and light from me to you until our next Chat and Chai.